Gemini, a disguised envy hides in the compliments you receive. Be careful with your energy. I want you to take a quiet breath and feel into something that's been lingering in your space. You've noticed it, haven't you? Compliments that sound sweet, but leave a strange aftertaste. Kind words that echo long after they're spoken. Not because they uplifted you, but because something about them felt off. It's as if you were being praised, but somehow left feeling smaller. This isn't your imagination. It's your intuition whispering, look again. As a Gemini, your charm draws attention effortlessly. Your wit, your intellect, your curious glow, it's magnetic, and most people admire it genuinely. But not everyone. Some carry envy, so cleverly disguised it wears the mask of admiration. A smile, a compliment, even applause, but underneath a thread of subtle resentment. These are the ones you need to watch. Not with fear, but with awareness. This is your moment to learn something powerful. Not all praise is pure. And as someone whose energy is constantly in motion, moving between people, ideas, conversations, you're more vulnerable to these unseen drains than you realize. Today, I'll help you uncover signs. The energies behind the words. The emotional weight hiding beneath surface-level kindness. If this message resonates as you listen, gently share or subscribe, not out of habit, but as a way of signaling to the universe. I'm ready to protect what's mine. I'm ready to guard my light. Now, let's open the first gate and uncover what's really hiding in their words. Gate 1, Gemini, and the hidden energy behind words. When praise isn't what it seems. Gemini, your relationship with language is like a sacred art form. Words are your tools of connection, discovery, and brilliance. You know how to weave charm into a sentence and wrap insight inside a joke. People admire how easily you shift from idea to idea and how effortlessly you brighten a room with your voice. But what happens when words, your favorite currency, are used against you? What happens when someone gives you a compliment that leaves you feeling not lifted, but strangely unsettled? This is where your journey begins today, in the nuanced world of energetic deception. Because as gifted as you are with communication, you sometimes take words at face value, especially when they come wrapped in kindness. Your quick mind registers the phrase, the tone, the moment, but your deeper self, your intuition, your emotional undercurrent, it knows when something is misaligned. And lately, you've been getting signals. Compliments that sound supportive but carry a strange emotional residue. Encounters that end with you questioning yourself, even when nothing overt was said. This isn't about paranoia. It's about perception. And Gemini, your perception is razor sharp when you slow down enough to feel into it. You're naturally trusting of social cues. You want to believe people are being genuine. You want to stay light, positive, graceful. But there's a growing dissonance between what people say to you and what your energy feels afterward. And this dissonance is your soul's early warning system. Let's take a moment to look at how disguised envy works. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It claps for you with a hollow ring. It smiles with slightly too tight eyes. It praises your success, but frames it as luck, not merit. It admires your style, but implies it's excessive. It flatters your talent, but questions your motives. And because the words are dressed in politeness, you question your reaction instead of their intent. Have you ever noticed this pattern? Someone says, "You're so good at everything. You must exhaust people around you," and everyone laughs. But something inside you deflates. Or someone says, "I don't know how you juggle so many things. I could never do that without falling apart." And again, it sounds flattering, but you're left wondering if they see you as chaotic rather than capable. This is a trick of disguised envy. It hides behind applause, but poisons your confidence in the shadows. What makes this particularly potent for you, Gemini, is your open nature. You let people in easily. You enjoy sharing your thoughts, your creative process, your inspirations, but not everyone receives that with an open heart. Some listen not to celebrate you, but to measure themselves against you. And when they feel threatened by your light, they don't always criticize you outright. They wrap their resentment in admiration. This allows them to maintain the appearance of support while subtly undermining your energy. You may find that after conversations with certain people, even people you love, you feel off, drained, anxious, Doubtful. That's not a coincidence. That's energy transfer. Their compliment wasn't clean. Their smile didn't carry warmth. Their words were polished, but the vibration underneath was dissonant. And your system knows. But because you're naturally graceful, you override that instinct. You rationalize. They didn't mean it that way. I'm just being sensitive. Maybe I'm overthinking it. But what if you're not? What if your discomfort is a message? What if your tension is your spirit trying to protect your joy? Here's where things get deeper. The people most likely to do this are often the ones closest to you. Friends, family, colleagues, those who've seen your growth up close. And instead of being inspired, some feel challenged. They compare. They compete. And when they realize they can't match your authenticity or agility, they resort to disguised envy because it's safe. Because no one can accuse them of wrongdoing for complimenting you. This is a hidden war of energy that so many Geminis fight silently, being celebrated on the surface, but energetically sabotaged underneath. And because you are social, loving, and naturally diplomatic, you feel conflicted. You don't want to cause drama. You don't want to confront. But here's the truth, Gemini. Protecting your energy doesn't require confrontation. It requires discernment. You don't have to accuse anyone. You don't have to reject kindness. But you do need to notice how your body feels after each interaction. Who leaves you feeling expansive? Who leaves you shrinking? Who makes you feel like more of yourself? And who makes you question whether your light is too much? That's where your real wisdom lives. Let me tell you a story. A Gemini woman named Ariel once shared how her closest friend would always praise her when they were in public. "You always get the best ideas. My brain just doesn't work like that," her friend would say. Or, "Ariel's a social butterfly. We all orbit around her energy." People would laugh. Ariel would smile. But later, she'd feel strangely guilty for being herself. She'd hesitate before sharing new projects. She began downplaying her ideas. When she finally stopped to feel into it, she realized something crucial. Those compliments weren't meant to uplift. They were meant to spotlight Ariel's brilliance and isolate her at the same time. That realization changed everything. Gemini, you are not here to shrink. You are here to speak, to shine, to share. But now is the time to refine who gets access to your energy. It's time to stop giving your light to those who only reflect it with mirrors of envy. You deserve to be around people who celebrate you with clean hearts, who compliment you and mean it, who leave you feeling stronger, not secretly smaller. This isn't about judgment. It's about energetic hygiene. Just as you wouldn't drink from a glass that looks clean but carries poison, you shouldn't accept praise that leaves residue in your spirit. You are awakening now to nuance, to subtlety, to your own intuitive power. You're learning to recognize the frequency of truth, not just a phrasing. And this shift, Gemini, will change the entire landscape of your relationships. The question now is, are you ready to stop mistaking poison for honey? Gate 2, the Gemini dilemma. How your desire to keep the peace opens doors to energetic manipulation. Gemini, one of your greatest strengths, your social agility, can also become a hidden vulnerability when the energy around you isn't pure. You know how to keep the air light, how to shift the energy in a room with a joke, a story, a clever observation. You're a peacemaker without even trying, diffusing tension with grace and charm. But beneath this gift lies a subtle challenge, one that often goes unspoken. Your deep discomfort with confrontation can lead you to overlook the very behaviors that wound your spirit the most. When someone gives you a poisoned compliment, a seemingly flattering remark laced with envy or condescension, you feel it instantly. But rather than pause and reflect on what that sensation might mean, you often rush to keep things harmonious. You change the subject. You smile. You laugh it off. You tell yourself, they meant well. And just like that, the manipulation is allowed to continue. You're not doing this because you're naive. You're doing it because you were taught to prioritize social ease over emotional truth. Because you've learned that your ability to keep others comfortable can feel safer than asserting your discomfort. And because deep down you fear that if you push back or question someone's tone, you might come off as ungrateful, dramatic, or worse, cruel. Let me say this clearly, Gemini, recognizing hidden envy is not cruel. Naming what doesn't feel good is not a betrayal of your nature. It is a return to your power. Let's look deeper into how this dynamic plays out. Imagine this. You walk into a room excited about a new project. You're buzzing with inspiration, ideas flowing freely. Someone turns to you and says, "Of course you have a million ideas. I don't know how you keep your head on straight." On the surface, it's playful, but something sinks inside you. The tone wasn't celebratory. It was a little too sharp, a little too amused at your expense. So you laugh. You make a self-deprecating joke. You move on, but something changes. You find yourself holding back the next time, not sharing your idea in full, filtering your passion to make sure it's more digestible. And just like that, you begin dimming your light. Not because you've lost your brilliance, but because someone else projected the discomfort onto you and you accepted it as feedback. This is a pattern you must now break. Because Gemini, when you continue engaging with people who praise you in public and undermine you in private, when you entertain compliments that make you feel confused, doubtful, or small, you allow their perception to distort your self-image. And over time, this erodes your confidence in invisible but powerful ways. The most dangerous part of this pattern is how subtle it is. Most of these interactions don't feel like overt attacks. They feel like mild discomfort. They feel like hesitation, like an inner voice that says, "Be careful, don't be too much." But if you trace that voice back, you'll often find that it was planted by someone who praised you with a double-edged smile, who looked at your wings and said, "You're so brave to fly like that. I could never do it," while secretly hoping you come back down to earth. Let me share a story with you. Elijah, a Gemini client of mine, once told me about a colleague who constantly complimented him. His creativity, his presentation skills, his ideas. But after every interaction, Elijah felt oddly self-conscious. He started questioning whether he was being perceived as arrogant. He worried that he was too loud in meetings. Eventually, he began dimming his input altogether. When we unpacked this, he realized that these compliments were always framed in comparison. "You're so confident. I'd never dare speak up like that. Only someone like you could get away with that kind of idea." The compliments weren't celebrating Elijah's gifts. They were quietly shaming them. This is emotional manipulation in disguise. And it's effective, especially on a Gemini, because you don't want to appear rude. You don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. You'd rather shift energy than confront it. But every time you ignore that uncomfortable sensation, you're telling your inner self that someone else's comfort matters more than your emotional truth. It's time to stop. You are not responsible for the insecurities others project onto you. You are not obligated to explain your gifts, to downplay your joy, or to soften your success so someone else can feel more comfortable in their own skin. That is not harmony. That is distortion. Real harmony, the kind your soul craves, is built on authenticity and mutual respect. It allows space for truth, for clarity, for emotional safety. And yes, that includes knowing when someone's compliment is actually a veiled critique. So, how do you begin to shift this pattern? Start by tuning into your body. When someone compliments you, ask, "Do I feel more open or more closed? Do I feel energized or subtly depleted?" If the compliment leaves you confused, foggy, or anxious, it's not clean. That's your first clue. Next, practice the art of energetic detachment. You don't need to confront the person immediately. You don't need to play detective. But you can choose to receive the words without absorbing the energy. Mentally say, "That's theirs, not mine." Hold your center. Keep your energy sealed. And most importantly, stop justifying your discomfort. If it feels off, it is off. You don't need a reason to honor that. You don't need permission to walk away from energy that drains you, even if it arrives with a compliment attached. Gemini, you are entering a new chapter of your spiritual evolution, one where you don't just read energy, you respond to it, where you stop sacrificing clarity for connection, where you choose your peace over your politeness. This isn't about isolating yourself. It's about choosing truth over tolerance. It's about remembering that you are not here to maintain illusions of others. You are here to live in your light, fully and unapologetically. And if someone can't love you without disguising their envy as praise, they are not loving you at all. Gate 3. The Gemini mirror effect. Why your light awakens insecurity in others. Gemini, now that you've begun to recognize how disguised envy can ride on the wings of compliment, let's go even deeper into why this happens to you so often. Why your presence seems to stir something unspoken in others. Why people admire you, yet some secretly want to dim your spark. The answer is not about what you've done wrong. It's about what you naturally radiate. You carry light, a quicksilver brilliance that moves through rooms, ideas, and people with almost otherworldly speed. Your presence is dynamic, never still, never heavy. And because of that, you often reflect to others what they have not yet found within themselves. Freedom, lightness, originality. And for some, that mirror is unbearable. People don't always envy your success, Gemini. What they often envy is your spirit, your flexibility, your ability to reinvent yourself, your gift for expressing ideas that others can barely articulate. You see the world as a puzzle waiting to be decoded, and you bring joy into complexity. That kind of intelligence, paired with social charm and emotional adaptability, is rare, and it's powerful. But it also makes some people uncomfortable, especially those who are stuck in rigid patterns, hidden self-doubt, or unfulfilled dreams. It's not your fault that your natural energy feels like a spotlight to them, but it is your responsibility to recognize the pattern and protect your peace. Have you ever noticed how people who say they admire your freedom often try to cage you with subtle judgments? How those who are drawn to your mind sometimes compete with it rather than celebrate it? These contradictions are not random. They are the result of what I call the mirror effect. When someone is in the presence of Gemini, especially a Gemini who is living authentically, it forces them to confront their own areas of stagnation. You laugh easily. They remember they haven't felt joy in weeks. You move on from pain. They realize they're still clinging. You shine without effort. They feel the weight of everything they've hidden. And rather than grow, some people choose to resent. They don't know they're doing it, not consciously. Most people who envy you actually believe they love you. They might even call you inspiring. But inside, there's a split between admiration and inadequacy, between celebration and comparison. And because they don't know how to hold that contradiction, they project it back onto you through compliments that bruise instead of bless. Let's say you share a win. Maybe you got a new opportunity, or someone recognized your talents publicly. A friend replies, "Wow, you always land on your feet. I wish life was that easy for me." What they've just done is reframe your success as unearned. Even if you worked tirelessly, even if you doubted yourself every step of the way, their words, wrapped in sugar, are meant to reestablish the hierarchy. You may be shining, but it must be luck. This is not just emotional immaturity. It is energetic self-protection on their part. And if you're not careful, Gemini, you'll internalize it. You'll start shrinking your achievements, downplaying your joy, avoiding the spotlight, so you won't stir up their insecurities again. But you weren't born to hide your light so others can avoid their shadow. You were born to express fully, freely, without the guilt of someone else's stagnation. What makes this dynamic even more difficult is that as a Gemini, you don't like emotional weight. You prefer levity, movement, and solutions. So instead of confronting the discomfort these envious compliments create, you often try to overcompensate. You lift the other person up. You compliment them. You make yourself smaller so they can feel bigger. You adapt like air to make others more comfortable. And in doing so, you give them exactly what they want. Energetic dominance masked as humility. But this pattern is no longer sustainable. You're not the person you used to be. Try and win everyone over. Try to be liked by all. Try and keep the room happy even if it means betraying your own intuition. That version of you was valuable. It taught you grace. It showed you how to relate. But now it's time to evolve. To become someone who is still charming, but discerning. Still generous, but energetically sovereign. Still socially fluid, but grounded in truth. Let's be clear, not everyone who compliments you is envious. You still receive genuine praise from people whose hearts are open, whose joy is authentic. The key is not to become suspicious of everyone. The key is to feel the energy behind their words. Does their compliment land with warmth or chill? Does it make you feel seen or measured? Do you leave the conversation feeling lifted or second-guessing yourself? This is energetic literacy, and Gemini, you were born for it, because your sign doesn't just speak, you translate. You read between the lines. You sense shifts in conversation that others miss entirely. Now, you're being asked to bring that same skill to your emotional landscape, to use your gifts of communication, not just with others, but with yourself. It's time to create a new inner dialogue, one that doesn't gaslight your discomfort, but honors it. One that says, that didn't feel good, and I don't need proof to trust my body. One that gives you permission to walk away from energy that feels fake, even if it's dressed in flowery language. Remember, Gemini, people will always have opinions about your light. Some will want to bask in it. Others will want to bottle it. A few will want to blow it out. But none of that matters when you're connected to your source. You don't shine for applause. You shine because it's who you are. And your light is not here to be filtered through the insecurities of others. It's here to guide, inspire, and elevate everyone bold enough to embrace it. In the next gate, we'll begin to unpack the psychological manipulation hidden inside these patterns, and how you can break free from emotional entanglements that steal your energy in the name of connection. Gate 4, Gemini and the psychology of the poison compliment, when energy becomes manipulation. Gemini, as we continue to walk deeper into this unfolding truth, it's time to name what has, for too long, gone unnamed in your life. The subtle manipulation that disguises itself as flattery. This isn't just social awkwardness. It's not just someone's poor communication style. No, this is a calculated energetic behavior, conscious or not, that has been chipping away at your confidence through smiles and praise. And unless you understand the psychological mechanism behind it, you'll continue to absorb energy that was never yours to carry. Here's how it works. Someone around you, maybe a friend, a colleague, a family member, feels threatened by your ease, your fluidity, your insight. You haven't done anything wrong. You've simply existed in your truth. And that truth triggers a part of them that feels stuck, unseen, or less. They don't want to admit this to themselves. It would be too vulnerable, too confronting. So instead, their subconscious takes a shortcut. They compliment you, but embedded in that compliment is a seed of diminishment. It sounds like this. You always know what to say, don't you? I'd probably mess it up if I tried. Or, you're always so upbeat. I wish I could pretend like everything's fine too. Or maybe, you're so good at multitasking. That's probably why you don't get too deep about things. All of these comments sound harmless, but each one contains a message. Your gifts aren't real. They're luck, they're shallow, or they're an act. And when repeated over time, these comments don't just pass through you. They anchor inside you. They distort your inner dialogue. Because as a Gemini, your mind is elastic. You explore nuance. You ask questions, both of others and yourself. So when someone sows a subtle doubt about your sincerity, your depth, your worth, you investigate it. And that's where the manipulation takes root. Not by force, but by suggestion. Here's the most dangerous part. These poison compliments bypass your logical defenses. If someone openly criticized you, you would respond. You'd set boundaries. You'd defend your truth. But when someone praises you and belittles you in the same breath, you don't know where to place your attention. It creates cognitive dissonance. Your body says, this doesn't feel right, but your mind says, they just gave me a compliment. And your desire to maintain social harmony wins out. So you say, thank you. You smile. You let it slide. But inside, something tightens. Something small and invisible contracts. And that contraction, repeated again and again, becomes a silent erosion of self-belief. Gemini, it's time to interrupt this pattern, not just by spotting the manipulation, but by understanding its mechanics and why you've been such a frequent target. First, you're emotionally expressive without being emotionally heavy. That makes people feel safe around you. But it also invites projection. Others unconsciously sense that you will receive their energy, even if it's messy, even if it's masked. You're the friend they joke with about your success, knowing you'll laugh it off. You're the co-worker they compliment, knowing they can slip in a dig because you can take it. Second, you have a gift for understanding complexity. This often means that when someone says something confusing or subtly harmful, you do the emotional labor decoding it. Maybe they're going through something. Maybe they didn't mean it like that. Maybe I misread the tone. But this is exactly how poison compliments survive, by placing the responsibility of clarity on the receiver instead of the speaker. Third, you were conditioned culturally, socially, emotionally to value connection over conflict. You've been taught that being too sensitive is a flaw, that calling out small moments of discomfort is overreacting. But let's be clear, your sensitivity is not a liability. It's a radar. And in this season of your life, it's your protection. I want to give you a new tool, a way of responding, both internally and externally, to this kind of manipulation. Not with anger, not with drama, but with energetic mastery. When you receive a compliment that feels off, don't rush to respond verbally. First, go inward. Ask yourself, what's the energetic temperature of this message? Is it warm, open, consistent? Or is it sharp, off-key, or dripping with performative sweetness? If it feels off, anchor yourself with breath. You don't have to explain or confront, but you also don't have to receive. You can mentally affirm, I see what this is, and I choose not to absorb it. If you feel bold enough and safe, you can gently reflect the incongruity. Say, that's an interesting thing to say. What do you mean by that? Or, thank you, but I'm curious what made you say that. These soft deflections put the energy back where it belongs, with the person who sent it. And you'd be surprised how quickly people reveal themselves when asked to stand behind their own words. But here's where your true evolution begins, Gemini. Not just in noticing the manipulation, but in refusing to twist yourself into knots to stay likable. You don't have to appease those who admire you resentfully. You don't have to smile through subtext. You don't have to carry someone's insecurity as if it's a shared burden. You are not responsible for how others react to your light. You are responsible for how you protect that light. And the more you do, the more you'll notice something remarkable. The manipulations begin to lose their grip. The comments no longer land. The energetic hooks don't penetrate. Why? Because you've shifted your frequency. You've stopped tuning into emotional games and started tuning into emotional truth. You're building a new identity now, one that's not just intelligent and charming, but rooted, selective, sovereign. And as you continue this process, something powerful will emerge. Your clarity. You'll walk into a room and know, immediately, who's real and who's performing. You'll hear a compliment and feel, instantly, whether it carries nourishment or a hidden sting. This is the rise of the discerning Gemini, the one who no longer sacrifices truth for ease, the one who knows that real connection isn't made of shallow words, but of energetic integrity. In the next gate, we'll begin integrating everything we've learned, so you can reclaim your self-esteem, restore your emotional boundaries, and create relationships built on clean, unwavering support. Gate 5, reclaiming the Gemini light. How to protect your energy without losing your joy. Gemini, you've come so far. You've opened your eyes to the way envy wears a smile, how energy doesn't always match the words spoken, and how subtle manipulations can leave a mark deeper than direct wounds ever could. But now comes the most empowering part of your journey, the moment where you decide that your light no longer needs to dim to make others feel safe. This is where you reclaim the parts of yourself that hesitated, doubted, or withheld in the name of harmony. This is where you protect your energy, not with walls, but with wisdom. Because the truth is, you don't want to close your heart. You don't want to become bitter, suspicious, or jaded. That's not you, Gemini. You want to stay open, curious, connected. And you can, but only if you first learn to recognize who is truly capable of honoring your openness, and who simply wants access to it without respect for its sacredness. The foundation of energetic protection isn't rejection, it's discernment. And discernment doesn't say, you're bad. It says, your energy doesn't align with the space I created for myself. That's a powerful shift. It removes guilt from your boundaries and places integrity at the center of your relationships. So what does protection actually look like in your life? First, it looks like awareness. You no longer accept every compliment without checking in with your body. When someone flatters you, you pause internally and ask, How do I feel in this moment? If you feel nourished, held, celebrated, you let the words in. If you feel a strange pressure behind the praise, if your heart contracts or your mind starts racing, you know to hold that compliment at the edge of your energy. You can nod, smile, even thank the person, but you don't absorb it. You place it outside of you, where it cannot alter your inner truth. Second, it looks like subtle but powerful language shifts. Instead of accepting veiled put-downs, you respond with clarity. If someone says, "You're so lucky, everything always works out for you," you might say, "It's not luck. I've worked really hard to get here." That one sentence sets an energetic boundary. It reclaims your narrative. It says, "Don't project your disbelief onto my journey." Third, it means being willing to release people who cannot meet you where you are. Yes, even if they've been in your life for years. Even if they call themselves friends. Longevity is not loyalty. Some relationships survive because you've kept your standards quiet, your energy accessible, your brilliance in check. But you're not in that season anymore. You're no longer afraid to walk alone for a while if it means walking with your truth. The people who belong in your next chapter will not need you to shrink. They will rise with you. This is where many Geminis falter, because you love people. You love interaction, exchange, connection. Cutting ties feels harsh. But what if you didn't have to cut people off? What if, instead, you step back and let distance do its work? What if you chose silence, space, and internal redirection? Not as punishment, but as preservation. You are not obligated to explain your boundaries to those who ignored your discomfort. You are not cruel for saying, "This doesn't feel good, and I don't want it in my field anymore." One of the most profound shifts you can make now is from being energetically available to everyone to being energetically intentional. You begin to curate your connections like a garden, not with suspicion, but with deep care. You water the friendships that feel reciprocal. You prune the dynamics that grow wild with projection. You remove the weeds, not because they're inherently bad, but because they're suffocating the growth of something far more beautiful. Gemini, the most healing decision you can make is this: to no longer carry the burden of other people's reactions to your authenticity. You were never meant to tone yourself down so someone else could avoid their work. You were never meant to apologize for your joy, your success, your ideas, your presence. You were never meant to feel guilty for being magnetic. You were meant to inspire, and the people who are ready to evolve will not envy that. They'll be grateful for it. They'll rise beside you. They'll cheer louder than anyone else. And when they compliment you, you'll feel it in your bones. This is real. This is love. This is clean. Let's speak now to your inner voice. The one that still remembers how it felt to receive a compliment that made you question yourself, that left you sleepless, anxious, and small. I want you to whisper to that part of yourself. You didn't imagine it. You were never overreacting. Your soul noticed what your mind wasn't yet ready to name. That voice in you, the one that hesitated every time someone praised you with a twist, is your truth. And now you honor it. You listen. You protect it fiercely. The moment you begin doing this, your world shifts. You begin to attract cleaner energy. People sense that you no longer entertain coded language or passive-aggressive remarks. They either meet you in clarity or they walk away. And either outcome is a blessing. This is a season where you return to your full frequency, not fractured by other people's projections, not dimmed by their discomfort, not muted by politeness. You shine fully and you shine wisely. You begin to take up space not just in words, but in energy. You stop adjusting your brilliance. You stop shrinking in rooms where you are meant to lead. And with every compliment, every connection, every conversation, you ask yourself, does this honor the truth of who I am? If yes, you open. If no, you protect. That is the Gemini rebirth. That is your new way of being. And now, as we approach the conclusion of this journey, I'll help you anchor everything you've learned into a new emotional reality. One where you are not only shining, but choosing to shine with awareness, sovereignty, and grace. Conclusion, Gemini, your light is sacred. Choose who gets to stand in it. Gemini, this is where everything begins to come full circle. You've seen the masks, The smiles that didn't reach the eyes, the compliments that left your heart strangely heavy. You've traced the subtle weight of envy woven through praise. And more importantly, you've realized it was never about your imagination. It was about your intuition, the part of you that always knew, but didn't yet have the language to defend itself. Now you do. What you uncovered through this journey isn't just about navigating difficult people. It's about stepping into a new kind of self-respect, one that doesn't rely on proving your worth or maintaining harmony at the cost of your own well-being. You've learned that genuine admiration feels warm, grounding, expansive. It lifts you. And you've learned that poisoned compliments contract you, confuse you, and disconnect you from your center. From this day forward, you're no longer available for that kind of energy. You will continue to be the bright, expressive, compassionate soul that you are. But now you carry discernment. Now, you choose who gets to witness your truth. And the irony, Gemini, is this: the more you protect your light, the more powerfully it shines. You don't need to shrink. You don't need to explain. You don't need to return fake kindness with real energy. All you need to do is notice and choose. That choice is your liberation. If this message resonated deeply, I invite you to share your reflection in the comments. You don't need to reveal every detail. Just leave a sign that says, "I see it now, and I choose differently." And if you haven't already, subscribe. Because this path you're on of clearing energy, reclaiming confidence, and honoring your truth is just the beginning. Your light is sacred, Gemini, and now only those who honor it get to stand in it.